Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good evening. Okay, right. We shall continue from what we had discussed last week on the best practices. Okay, some of you have already tried to prepare their very own K chart, which is I think it is a very good start. I didn't put up any comments, but it is a good effort. Okay, um, but because I believe today we are going to go through the steps, what we have to continue what we had discussed last week. To continue from last week, we already gone through the scenarios where you as a student or you as a researchers would like to embark on a research journey, right? And then there are a lot of hurdles here and there depending on your very own background. Okay, but the general student will face difficulties in especially when they want to start their literature review. So I have introduced to you a tool called K-Chart. It is basically a tool to help you to do planning and management for research, right? And we did go through one example on the automotive and the vehicle performance. And for today, we are going to go through the steps involved in constructing a K chart, right? So there are 5 steps. Step number 1 is constructing the general title. Okay, and then we are going to have a activity on to how to write a general title, and then you also going to go through to write your own specific title and a paper title. So that would be kind of like assignment for all of you starting today, right? And then we are going to go through steps number 2, constructing the system under study layers, for you to identify the system under studies layers, whether you have a subsystem or few layers of subsystem, or just one or two layers. And then step number 3 is basically constructing the methodology layers, and then constructing the results layers, where you are going to identify the number of papers that you can produce from your results. And finally, constructing the timelines. Okay, and note that the layers can be initially constructed independently, meaning that you can just have step number 3 on its own, and then you have step number 2 on its own, and or you want to start from number 1, 2, 3, and 4 straight away. So it can be independently constructed, and later you're going to combine it together. Right. Let us start one by one in terms of constructing the title. Right. So generally, from our previous discussion, we have introduced in terms of general title. Okay, and in K-chart, a title should indicate the following. Basically, you are going to have the SPAM. SPAM basically stands for system, problems, achievements, and methodology. Whether you are going to have all these elements in your general title, or you're going to have a few. Maybe some of it will be appearing in the very general title, and it will later appear in your specific title as we go along. Right. The title should indicate the system you are working on. What is the system you are working on? Remember we had gone through the vehicle. So what is the system? The example that we gone through, the vehicle performance last week. Basically, the system under study is the vehicle. Okay, the vehicle, to be specific, it is a car. What type of car? It is a sedan car. And inside the system, inside the car, we are going to look at the tire. If you still remember what we have gone through last week. So that is we are talking about the system. That in the title we should have the system. So at the moment, probably you have an idea of what is your own system, right? And then we have the problems you are solving. Okay, for example, like in the example that we gone through before, what are the problem? We want to look at the performance of the vehicle, right? So it can be the how to get the car to perform better, right? So or you have a problem, the problem that you want to solve, like you want to see the effect of something against something, okay? Or you're going to um, study on the issues on poverty, right? So you are the title will reflect that. It can be constructed in such way. And then you will have your achievements. Later I'm going to explain to you what are the achievements all about, and the methodology, right? Some general title, very rare you will put the methodology inside, whether you're going to say that um, an experimental study to look on the effect of different types of tire design on the performance of a sedan car. So that kind of title clearly stated that it is an experimental work. Right. General title, basically in the spam in general, no achievement. So that's why I said I reserve achievement from my explanation just now. So normally we will have the system, we have the problem, and sometimes we have the methodology involved. At the same time, a program or a project title, you have a specific spam where you introduce the achievements as well as the methodology, and a paper title, a very specific spam. So later we are going to look at a very example on what do we mean by general title, program or project title, and a paper title. In constructing the general title, okay, one normally begins a research project with a general idea of what he or she wants to do. Like the example that we've gone through, we want to look at the performance of the vehicle, right? And then that would be our general idea. Okay, we want to look at the performance. What kind of performance? Okay, and then the general idea normally appears in the forms of issues or the problem he or she want to study in a certain area of research, right? So, for example, the vehicle just now, we want to maybe be more specific. We want to just look at the effect of certain things on the performance of the car. And then, so the research idea normally begins with issue or problem. Okay, you want to look, for example, like the effect of something, or um, what you want to see the influence of COVID-19 on the economy of Malaysia. Okay, so that is the issue. The issue is the influence of COVID, the influence on poverty. So that's the issue, right? So while the system, the method, and the achievements are not well formed yet, because we are just constructing the general title, right? And then, however, quite often that achievement are directly identifiable through problems. So I believe at this moment you are still asking what is actually achievement. So achievement probably at general title, as I mentioned earlier, it does not appear. Okay, but there are cases, and I will show you later on. There are cases of general title that show the achievements. Right? Okay, let us look in a few example of a general title. The one that I've shared with you last week is on factors affecting the performance of motor vehicles. So this is an example of a general title where basically the subject under study, okay, let me just open all first so that we can go through one by one. So general title, the first one is factors affecting the performance of motor vehicle, and then another example, customer satisfaction in tourism industry, right? And pay attention on the bold underline wording, customer satisfaction in tourism industry. And then we have development of an index for human innovativeness, right? And then we have another example, dynamics of firefly population at Putrajaya wetland. And then pattern of spread of contagious diseases in Malaysia, maybe COVID-19. And the last one is patient satisfaction towards services in general hospital. So let's try to identify in terms of the item of SPAM. Okay, so let's say we have the S, the P, the A, and the M. The subject under study. Okay, let us identify in the first title, factors affecting the performance of a motor vehicle, right? Basically, the subject under study is the motor vehicle, right? In the first example. And then for customer satisfaction in tourism industry, the subject under study is the tourism industry, right? So probably it is the tourism industry itself is the subject under study. Okay, so it's specific to subject to tourism industry. Okay, the third one, development of an index of human innovativeness, right? So basically, human innovativeness is the subject under study. Dynamics of firefly population, right? So it is the firefly is the subject under study, and then pattern of spread of contagious diseases. Contagious diseases is the subject under study, and patient satisfaction towards services in general hospital is basically the services in general hospital, right? So that is basically the subject under study in this particular case. And let us just then identify the other things, right? Probably I try to find a different color, right? What else do we have in this title? For example, the first one, is it do we have the problem? Okay, do we have now the problem? Factors, probably is it factors is the problem, or achievement, or methodology? Right, at the moment we cannot see any methodology. Factors affecting the performance of motor vehicles, right? Achievement is basically the performance. So performance, okay, let me just go one by one. Maybe the P, the problem first. Problem is they want to see the factors. So basically the factors is the problem. Customer satisfaction is the problem that we want to solve in tourism industry. Okay, development of an index is the problem. Okay, dynamics of firefly population is the problem. Pattern of spread is the problem, and patient satisfaction is the problem. Okay, so basically that are the problems in the general title. Okay, let me just try to change to another pen color, maybe magenta will do, right? And then what? Factors affecting the performance of motor vehicle. What about achievement in the first title? And do we have any achievement? Factors affecting the performance. Basically, the achievement in the first title, okay, is the performance. This is the performance is the achievement, right? And number two example, we do not have any achievement there. Development of an index for human innovativeness. Basically, it is the development is the performance. Okay, maybe some of you say, oh, why development is a performance? Later you will see why. Dynamics of firefly population at Putrajaya wetlands. we are not, we do not have. Some people say population is the performance, but actually not, and we do not have any performance there. Pattern spread of contagious diseases doesn't have any performance there. Patient satisfaction towards services in general hospital doesn't have any performance. And how about methodology? Okay, so do we have the methodology here? The methodology, in this first example, we do not have methodology. Whether we have methodology there, okay, we do not have methodology here. We do not know whether this particular study, the first one, is being to be conducted using experiment or numerical study or just a survey. Similarly with number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6, we do not have any methodology. Okay, so as you can see here, in the general title, you will see the subject under study. Definitely must have a subject under study, and you will have the problem. And some will have achievements, some will have methodology. Okay, so I leave it at the moment for you to think about it in terms of the general title that I have discussed just now. Right, let us pick one of the general title here, and we try to construct the specific title as well as the paper title. Right, let us choose the patient satisfaction towards services in general hospital. All right, how to write the project title? Okay, so basically, if you want to write a project title, you may end up to have like this, patient satisfaction towards outpatient services. So you want to see the patient satisfaction, right? This is the problem. Okay, in the hospital you have so many patient. Okay, and normally when you do a survey for patient satisfaction, you are going to identify the is it the patient that are in the emergency, or patient are just coming for is it for the outpatient? In this particular case, it is focusing on the outpatient. You are already identifying the outpatient services. Okay, it's not just normal services. It is for outpatient services in general hospital. Okay, and then example for the paper title, you may want to zoom in furthermore. Who are the outpatient? You may say that, okay, we want to focus on the elderly patient satisfactions towards outpatient pharmacy services. It's not just any other services. It's not about emergency. It's not about children or your gynecology or whatever. It is about elderly patient satisfaction towards outpatient pharmacy services. You may want to be very specific in Hospital Serdang or Putrajaya Hospital. So you can have a more specific paper title. All right. So okay, that is basically the example. I just give an example. Later on, you are going to do your very own. So as an exercise, right? What we are going to do, we are not going to do the exercise or activity now. I'm going to upload the activity, activity 1, for you to construct your very own general title, right? So we may skip the simulation. Okay, this is another activity, but probably just an example there. You are going to do your very own individually. It is going to be individual, much easier to do individual. Your general title, specific title, and a paper title, right? It is an activity. So I will provide you the instruction on the activity in Putra Blast later on. Step number 2, constructing the system under study layers. Right. So once we have the title ready, we are going to go through the layers. Okay. Subject under study or the scope layers consists of two categories, right? We have the system layer. We also have the subsystem or element layers, and each category is defined by its various type. So the system layers, right, begin the first layer with the system, right? So if you identify the car as the system, so you want to break down, sorry, the vehicle as the system, you want to break down the vehicle into what type of vehicle, okay? And then for the next layer, you may want to identify the applications, right, or types of the system. So in the case of the vehicle, you may want to identify, is it a air vehicle or land vehicle or sea vehicle, right? That's the first layer, and then you may want to zoom in into the next step, continue step 2 until you exhaust the types of the system, right? So you may end up to have maybe 3 layers. Some of you probably creative enough, you find 5 layers and so on. So let us continue. And then once you have the subsystem layer ready, you may want to construct the subsystem or the element layers. Okay. At the next layer, after the last layer of system, you identify the subsystem or elements of the system. And for the next layers, identify the types of the subsystem and continue step 5 until you exhaust the types or applications of the subsystem. And you repeat step 4 till 6 for the next element. And maybe once you do it, you will feel that, oh, you have to try to construct layers by layers and horizontally, and then go vertically down. So important to note here, the types in later layer must always be the subset of the former layer. You cannot have, for example, like you start with the car, okay, suddenly you talk about vehicle. So you have to talk about the vehicle first, the general layer system, and then you go into the subsystem, which is the land, sea, or air vehicle, and then you choose land, for example. You then zoom into whether you want to focus on a car or lorry or buses and so on. So this is the first the rule for the constructing the layers. In terms of the element of the final unit, is also known as the experimental unit in design or experiment subject. And continuous literature review, meaning that you're going to do it's not by just assuming there are only certain numbers of elements in the sub layer. Remember, here we have the system layer, we have the subsystem. So you must actually search for the information on every sub layer, okay? And notes being put here, you must read in order for you to get the most information. It's not just without reading any references, you just think about it. Oh, it is there are only this type, 5 type. I don't want to search anymore. So what is the reference that's saying that it's only 5 or it's only 3? Okay, you must be ready to justify why you only have 2 system layer, why you only have 5 subsystem, and so on. Again, we want to look back. Probably some of you are lost at the moment. An example that we have gone through last week about factors influencing the performance of a motor vehicle. So the system is the vehicle itself. The type number 1 is the application of the vehicle, whether it is air, land, or sea. And then type number 2, we look at the types of the application for land vehicle. Okay, of course you have motorcycle, cars, truck, vans. Of course you do not put boat over there, you don't put submarine over there, because it is only land vehicle, right? And then you go more detailed. Type number 3, what car types? That's now vehicle type. Car type, you have mini, sedan, wagon, or sport car, or convertible, and so on. And then subsystem or the elements of a sedan car You may have engine, body, tire, and so on. That is related to the performance of the car. You do not put, let's say, performance of the car, you put air condition system, you put the seat and so on. So what are the elements that going to affect the performance of the car? So you whenever you put the element subsystem here, it must be something that you have to think about it, not just simply put something that are not related, right? That is the system understudy layers, right? In terms of the importance of the system layers, okay, there are a few rules here, and the more detailed the layers, the less assumption, meaning that the better your K chart will be. Okay, why do I say like that? Because some students say that, oh, this is not important. I can just jump from one layer to another layer, and just whenever you do jump, and whenever you skip a step, meaning that you are making assumption, so the more detailed the layer, the less assumption that you make, the better your literature review will be, right? Every time there is a jump between the layers, an assumption is made. Okay, thus a justification is required. So when you write down the story, the narrative of the for every layers, you are telling the reader or the examiner, saying that these are the information that being discussed. There are no more other type of vehicle as reported by this researcher and this researcher. So you are quoting the knowledge that already available. So you must have a justification whenever you want to jump between the layers. And what else? One can choose any way he or she likes to arrange the sequence of the layers. So it depends on how you want to tell the story. For example, like you want to tell about the type of car first before you go for the type or the system of for the car. You want to talk straight away about the tires, right? No matter where the tires being used, whether it's going to be used on a bicycle or a motorcycle or a car, a lorry, and so on. You just want to study about tires. So you may start the tires on the top, rather than the car on the top. So it depends on how you are going to arrange the sequence of the layers, right? However, issues of the same theme should be in the same layer. You cannot mix sedan car suddenly with steering wheel, and then so does not jive to each other. So it does not match with the theme. Okay, when you write in your literature review later on, you are going to divide the section for the theme that you have chosen. When you talk about the type of cars, you only talk about type of cars. You don't mix with the story about the tire pressure. Okay, so it is in the different paragraph, right? The issues layers, it will indicate the scope of critical review, what to get from the papers, right? So when you discuss about the layers, you are going to find, meaning that you're going to use your K chart in order for you to seek information, to find, oh, I need to find more information about the tire pressure. Who studied about tire pressure? Who studied, other researcher already studied about the pattern of the tires? Who already studied about the material for the tires? So you're going to segregate, meaning that K-chart can help you in terms of classifying your literatures and the references that you are receiving. You will be able to classify them. The focus issues, designation of issues. So you can identify from the layers the issues that you want to touch upon, and then the rationale in choosing issues to study, to move from one level to the next level. Okay, right? And then issues layers can help you to identify the problem statement. What is actually the real problem that you want to solve? Some student, they have generalized the problem, and suddenly they fail to identify the real problem that the study uh, need to solve. Okay, that is another thing. When we come to how to create or how to craft the problem statement, you will eventually, I want you to refer back to your K chart on how to write the problem statement. Okay, these are another examples or samples. Probably I don't have to go through one by one. I would like you to look here. For example, like system for car. Oops. System for cars, computer, human, school, and tourism. It's just an example. Subsystem, what are the elements, and so on. Right. The type of system and subsystem types can be defined based on any categories, like you can classify it as different sizes, different application or usage, models, standards, technology, and methods or techniques. So this is just an example on how you want to classify the system and subsystem. It also guide you in terms of the research direction. Whenever you want to proceed to the next level from one layer to another layer, where you need to look at the availability of expertise. Okay, for example, like you want to do experiment. Okay, whether you have the expertise to do experiment, or your strength is to do simulation. Okay, to do numerical simulation, or you are good in terms of doing the design. You are better to do design rather than performing building a prototype or so on. Availability of facility and maybe the software or the experimental rig is available at the lab and so on. Required time. So in terms of the Masters of Innovation and Engineering Design, you are being given 2 semesters to complete your dissertation, whether your project is sufficient enough to fulfill. So that will guide you on how much information that you need to compile in terms of complexity of research, completeness of knowledge or solution, whether you're going to find a very novel thing or just a matter of solving a few items in terms of the performance, cost, novelty, and importance in terms of applicability, impact, and urgency. This is very important. Okay, some of it are very relevant to you at the moment for your Master of Innovation and Engineering Design, and some of it probably are relevant when you want to do your PhD later on. Important notes in the system under study. The system must be at the top, okay, followed by its types, and a subsystem must be at the lower layer and followed by its types, right? So the system, maybe it has some types. Subsystem also may be having its own types, and one can choose any way to arrange the sequence of the types within a system or subsystem, right? However, issues at the same type should be in the same layer. You cannot mix, jumble up the system and subsystem and the types and the subsystem types. The more detailed the layer, the less assumption, the better it is. Every time there is a jump between layer, an assumption is made, thus justification is required to the validity of the assumption. All right, and one can choose, right? One can choose any way he or she likes to arrange the sequence of layers. Okay, and another one, however, issues of the same theme should be in the same layer. Apply the layering checking mechanism, and you must perform extensive literature review. All right, so you must read and read. Right, there will be an activity number 2 will be uploaded in the Putra Blast. So you are going to construct your own system understudy layers based on your general title, specific title, and paper title. You later that are going to do your system understudy layer, and each time you have um, identify a system, the type of the system or subsystem and type subsystem, you must be able to explain it later on when you write your literature review paper, your review paper. I would like to refer back whether it is appear on the K chart or you just simply write without referring to the K chart. It has to be very systematic. Okay, that's step number 2. All right, step number 3. I'll try to continue until step number 4 probably. Step number 3, the methodology layer. For the first methodology layer, is a general methods to use. For example, whether you are going to do theoretical study, experimental study, simulation, or survey. And then for the subsequent layers, the layer down underneath here, where you identify and choose the test environment, whether you are going to use to do lab tests or field tests. Okay, let's say you want to do lab tests, whether is it going to be lab prototype or it is an engineering prototype or commercial prototype, right? And then what are the technique? For example, even the lab prototype, you have different measurement techniques. Okay, this is just a general example where measurement technique number 1, number 2, or number 3, right? So it's not just stopping at, okay, I want to do experiment, that's it. Okay, what are the detail of the experiment? So normally this step 3 is will help you to construct your third chapter, which is the methodology chapter. So it has to be the detail in terms of the equipment that you use, what are the how many samples that you're going to test, and what are the analysis in terms of the or measurement technique that you're going to use. Right, importance of methodology layer. Okay, basically to define the specific methods adopted. So meaning that when you want to choose each methods, it must be supported by literature review. It's not just simply say that, okay, I want to do experiment. Why you want to do experiment? Okay, who say that the best method is to do experiment? Okay, or you want to do numerical simulation. Okay, so what are other people's that has already done on numerical method? What software that they use? What models that they have already conducted? Okay, and so on and so forth. So to methodology layer also will help you to designate which methods are of higher priorities. Right? Okay, some student will mix between numerical analysis as well as experimental work, because to do experiment is expensive, right? You cannot afford to have 20 different combination of design parameters to change, right? Or maybe you end up to do numerical simulation, you can run 20 simulation, different design parameters, and from the best numerical simulation, you then perform the experiment. So that's how it will work. Okay, and to avoid ambiguities in the approach taken, so to reduce assumption as well. Right, so this is very important for methodology layer. Right, and then you're also going to do the activity number 3, where you're going to identify your methodology layer. Of course, it is not going to be straight away next week you submit activity number 3 or exercise number 3 about the methodology layer. I will inform you in Putra Plus the detail of the exercise number 3. Let us move to step number 4, the second last steps, the results layer. What are results layer? Basically, the results layer consists of performance parameters, right? Performance parameters that is followed by the design parameters, right? Performance parameters and design parameters. So what you need to do, you need to identify the performance parameters. It may be one, maybe two, or few performance parameters. Whenever you want to decide the performance parameters, it has to be supported by literature review, right? So how many performance parameter? What are the performance parameter that you're going to produce, right? If you are doing experiment, for example, you are doing the tire test experiment, okay, the performance parameters probably result in term of the um, how long the tire can survive in a different environment, okay, so or in term of the ability of the tires to um, run on wet road, such thing. So basically, the performance parameter will affect, for example, like the vehicle, okay, the maybe the speed, maybe the comfort, but you must identify the units. It has to be a tangible thing. So and then you identify the design parameters under the corresponding performance parameters. So what are the factors, the parameters that going to affect, okay, the performance? Let's say pressure, okay, pressure of the tire, or you want to use different material, you want to use different pattern of the tires that would, or you were going to change the revolution per minute, so how fast the tire will spin, that will affect the performance, okay. So whether it is internal factors or external factors, right? Internal factors, for example, when we talk about the example of the tire, anything to do on the tire itself. External factors, anything to do with other things, for example, like the surface that the tire will run on, okay, or humidity, or temperature of the environment, or whether is it dry or wet, that is external, but internal is the physical factors of the tire itself. I'm just referring to the example that we have used before, and then identify the ones with higher priorities. Okay, example here, result performance. Okay, for example, like performance parameters like speed or fuel consumption, as well as acceleration. We are just going to focus, for example, speed and fuel consumption. For the speed, maybe pressure, tire height, and tire width will be the suitable design parameters that going to affect the speed, right? And the dotted lines, okay, it can be the higher priorities, or it can be a new results. Maybe there are people already look at the tire height, maybe other people already look at the tire width, and nobody looking at the pressure. So this is a new thing, or the higher priorities for the results, okay. And then when you talk about fuel consumption, okay, maybe tire pressure, tire width, and maybe other factors, right? If you look carefully here, all of the design parameters are the internal factors. It can be external factors that you want to, that you can control, that can affect the performance. That can also be included in your study. Right. The importance of result layer. And the results layer helps in identifying the expected results. How many of them, right? So you can easily say that, okay, I have three design parameters, and for speed just now, so I can vary the pressure, I can vary the tire height, I can vary the tire width, that will resulted in a different speed. So you can see how many result are you going to produce, and setting the priorities and designation of results, right? So you can then identify, oh, this result is important because nobody have produced results for these design parameters. And then identifying the possible analysis, comparative study. You may say that a title or paper title such as the effect of a different tire height and tire width on the speed and fuel consumption for a sedan car in Malaysian road or Malaysian highways. So that would be a possible title. Organizing a report, a thesis or paper is quite easy whenever you have a structured plan for your results layers. And also identifying a designating sub-project, maybe one student focusing on certain design parameters, another student focusing on certain design parameters that will be combined together to produce a better papers. And of course, you're also going to have an activity where you're going to um, even though you are not going to do the experiment, you are not going to do the producing results yet, but KCHAT, through KCHAT you will be able to plan, and you are going, this is why we do it as early as the research initial stage, so that you can have a better plan. And then, as I highlighted before, the KCHAT itself is not cast in stone. It is a live document where you can go back to the KCHAT and then improve it, and as you go along your study. And at the same time, I just want to show here in terms of the usage of KCHAT, planning for thesis writing, right? So you may which title is suitable for your thesis or dissertation later on. Is it a general title, or you have to go through the specific title? And normally for a thesis title, you are going to write down the specific title. But the general titles is just a general overview. And then you can use the system layer to construct your chapter 1, the introduction. You would be able to identify the problem statement, you would be able to identify the scope of the study, write down the objective, and then provide the hypothesis, and then also do the literature review based on the system layer. Okay, for the methodology layer, of course, the chapter 3 methodology and the theoretical development, you may have chapter 4, or you may also have just one chapter 3. Result layer, result chapter 5 maybe result for the experiment, maybe chapter 6 result for the numerical simulation and the conclusion. So you can see that you may use the whole KCHAT for constructing your dissertation and your thesis. Okay, I'm at the end of the presentation. Okay, we may want to evaluate your KCHAT. Okay, is there any jump from one layer to another layer, and what assumptions have been made, right? Are the assumptions justifiable? Right? Are the options at each layer exhaustive? Okay, how the options are made to move to the next layers, right? And what could be the potential titles, right? And how many results are expected? Okay, and of course, how many good papers can be expected from your study, right? In terms of the summary, right, the best practice that I've introduced to you, okay, it is we know that most existing tools are only suitable for macro level research planning. And some researchers or some students, they do not have any structured way of doing things. Okay, so they just say, oh, I'm doing research, but I do not use any tools, right? Okay, so KCHAT is a micro level research management, right, and planning tool, right? It is useful for planning, it is useful for execution and completion of a research project, and it is constructed based on 3 diagrams in terms of concept, where you have the focus and expand processes. You focus and you expand, and then you jump to another one. You focus again and you expand your information. Right. Okay. I want to open up for question and answer. Probably I've been talking for nearly 50 minutes now. Right. So any questions so far?
Regarding the sample of titles that you have given, for
Okay.
example, the second title, customer satisfaction on the tourism industry,
Okay.
is suitable to use survey as the methodology, right? So there's no need for any experiment or prototype or anything, just the survey form and the survey analysis, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So in our the topic that we choose, uh, is it compulsory to produce a prototype or an experiment, or any type of the methodology can be used?
Okay. If we refer back to the purpose of having this the dissertation, I'm talking about a general dissertation for your, especially for your program, Master of Innovation and Engineering Design, right? So the aim, basically, ultimate aim, basically, would like your dissertation. Okay, for those who are taking dissertation now, or some of you are going to take dissertation next semester, we do expect that a tangible product that can be produced from the dissertation, right? So um, having a survey, yes, it is a tool to collect data. Right? Some students, they start with a survey first because they want to see whether there are a needs or a demand for their ideas and the product that they want to use to produce. Okay, and but eventually, the ultimate aim for Master of Innovation and Engineering Design, we would like to see there are at least a prototype, or at least something that can be used for the specific customer. All right. So, but for the exercise, for the sake of this activity, you may choose any topic that is suitable, and I do not want to stop you that okay, we are only limited to only to do experiment or numerical. You can still have a title that having a methodology for doing survey. Okay, and bear in mind, even though you are doing an experimental methodology, or you are building a prototype, it doesn't stop you to have more than one methodology. You can have you can do survey. You can to collect information from the customer, and then you can also do numerical study at the same time you do experiment, right? So, but typical research for Master of Innovation, you will end up to do only two of the methodology. But there are cases student conducted more than one or more than two methodology. Okay, is that answering your question, Shikin, just now?
Yes, thank you, Prof.
Hi, Prof. It's Martin. Uh,
Yes, Martin.
about the key chart, the result layer. I want to know the result layer's result is a prediction of the result or a final result. For example, a project is to the project is optimizing structure. The result is before we do some experiment, we predict the result, or we do some experiment and know how much we optimize it.
Okay, very good question there, Martin. Basically, when you construct your result layer, basically you are doing the planning. You are identifying what are the performance parameter that going to come out from your design parameters. Right? For example, you are doing optimization. You are going to try a different force or different length or different weight, and then what is going to be the effect on the performance parameters. So you are planning to do how many tests that you are going to conduct, all right? You are going to plan what are the end result would be. Okay, so and by having that, if you are doing the real research, you can then identify, oh, I need 10 kilogram of material, or you need a different sample. How many sample for maybe the tensile testing? You're going to do some other testing, and that because K-chart result layer, basically you are going to plan what is the potential results, right? So by planning earlier, you can now know, oh, I'm going to do this only, and also will help you in terms of identifying the scope of your study, right? You are starting to say that I'm just focusing on this. Probably your supervisor will say yes, it's enough, or no, it's not enough. Many people have done this, so you have to start to think about, oh, I need to do another result in order for you to say that yes, this is a contribution to the knowledge. So
Okay.
probably that will try to enlighten you a little bit on it's not a result that you obtain later. It's basically the planning on what to do, what to produce in terms of the results. Okay,
Okay.
Martin? Yeah.
Yes, clear. Thank you, Prof.
Assalamualaikum, Professor. Anas here.
Yes, Anas. Waalaikumsalam.
Regarding the layer jumping, is there any common justification if any researchers want to jump layers, or probably you can share with us the common justification?
Right. Basically, justification when you want to jump, basically, nobody will stop you. You want to just say, oh, there are only 3 types of car available. I'm just using an example again. But you have to justify, because each layer that you are putting in your K chart, you're going to write the explanation in your literature review chapter, okay, where you are saying that, okay, Rahim 2020 reported in his paper or whatever, saying that there are only 3 type of cars available in the world, which is not. So you are basing on facts reported by other people, or you are saying that Tariq, Azmin, and Yazdi agree that there are only 3 type of cars available. So those information you are collecting from the literature, different references saying that yes, there are only 3 type of cars available. So that is the justification saying that yes, there are no other type of car available anymore. So you can then jump into the second layer, the second paragraph. You leave the paragraph there. So that's how you move from one paragraph to another paragraph in your literature review. Okay, so each system will become a sub chapter. You have your literature review later on. You are going to write your literature review later on. So whenever you want to move from one paragraph to another paragraph, you are basically moving from one layer to another layer. Okay, so let's say you have 5 layers altogether. I'm expecting from your literature review chapter, there will be 5 main paragraphs that consists of the story. Okay, so let's say you suddenly have 7 paragraphs, but you have only 5 layers. There's something wrong there, meaning that you are not, again, it is the K chart can be added later on, because K chart is not just at the beginning of the study. It is being used until you produce your thesis, right? So So that is just an example of how you do justification. It's not based on your perception, it is based on the facts from other people. Okay, and of course, you need to make decision. Yes, I couldn't find any more. I couldn't. I From my reading, there are only this number of types available, and this number of work being done by other people, supported by this group of people. Okay, and then you jump into the second layer, and so on. Okay, Anas?
Okay, Prof. Meaning that if there is no reference, then we do assumptions. Is that what we mean?
Yes, when you couldn't find any more information,
I see.
any more references, we assume that it is exhaustive. Okay, but again, you may be challenged by your examiner or your supervisor saying that, oh, you don't read enough. Why don't you read this article? It is reported here. It is reported there. Okay, or you check in the pattern documents, or something. Yeah. So of course, it is very subjective. It depends on the situation, right?
Okay, Prof. Thank you.
Yep.
Prof mentioned a few times about method and the parameters supported by literature review, right?
Yep.
So I'm quite not understand how it should be supported.
Can you say again? I didn't get the first part of your question.
Okay, Prof mentioned about the method and the result must supported by the literature review, right?
Okay.
So how it should be supported by the literature review? That
Right.
means we have to.
Yeah, I get your point. Right. When you want to decide the methodology, right? It is not just stating in the either in your chapter or in your K chart. Okay, I'm going to do numerical simulation, right? So you have to justify why numerical simulation is the best methodology for you to embark or to get the intended outcome, right? So you must also have in the literature review section on the methodology that already available, meaning that in order for you to produce the results, okay, what are the methods that being used already by other people? Okay, some people may be focusing on numerical. So let's say they are doing CFD, computational fluid dynamics. What software that they use? What turbulence model that they have decided? And so you and the result that they obtain. Okay, so you from based on the literature, based on the recommendation by other researcher, right? Then you decide, okay, numerical simulation is the best method because nobody else have done experiment, right? So, or it is not viable to do experiment. Only numerical simulation can produce the result. Okay, and then many people have used this. Maybe they use NC's program. There's some people using CFX for CFD. There are some people using this, and there are advantages and disadvantages. So you are using the literature review in order for you to make decision which methodology is best for your study, right? So it's not just saying that, okay, I'm going to do numerical simulation and this is my method, this is my way of doing things. So it is not justified. Okay, so doing a master, you must be able to say why you choose this method, why is it not the other method. All right, so before you decide, yes, this is the method that I'm going to use. Is that okay again?
Okay, Prof. So that's mean even though there are a lot of people already use that method,
Yep.
in my case, let's say in my case, that certain method is best for my case. So that means still I can use it, right?
Yes, yes. It is a strong justification saying that it is a method that has already proven, right? A method that's already proven for other people, meaning that you can say yes, other people has already recommend whenever you want to study on the effect of the aerodynamics of a car, you use this turbulence model. Okay, as stated in this researcher, and this researcher. So based on that, you are using the same method, which is okay, which is a strong justification. Okay, at the same time, you can also use the methods that already being tried by other people, and say that, oh, nobody already tried this, so this is my contribution. Okay, there's a new thing that's coming out because nobody else have tried. So that is also another way of finding novelty and new things from the literature. Okay, so doesn't mean that other people has done it, you cannot use it. There's a strong justification saying that yes, this is a valid way of doing things. Yes, Papati.
Okay. I can see many flaws in my K chart and missing layers and wrong layers of results. So I need to correct all that. For dissertation title, do we follow project title or paper title?
Okay, for dissertation paper, dissertation title, normally we are following the project title, a specific title, right? Not the general title, not the very specific title, right? So it is in between. So because in the activity later on, I would like you to write down the general title, the specific title, or the project title, or the thesis title, okay, or dissertation title, and then the paper title. You can have more than one paper title, okay, because it depending on the result that you are going to have, right?
Another question is,
Yes, yeah.
let's say we have elements, few elements. So far, people have not combined those two elements into the next for methodology. Can we combine two elements and then move on to do the experiment, or is it has to be only one in each horizontal layer?
Okay, if I get it right in terms of your question, in terms of choosing the methodology, right? So basically, let's say you are just doing conceptual design, okay? At the same time, you would like to do a survey, right? So those two methodology will have their own results later on. Okay, so you can have those two. You have a just do the conceptual design, and then you have your design parameters. You have your performance parameters. At the same time, your survey also going to produce some results that going to be supported to your conceptual design. So it can be concurrent. It can be it's not just limited. You want to do only one methodology. You do not have to do other things. So you can have all methodology being conducted. Of course, it will take more time, right? So it depends later on on the detailed study. All right. Thank you very much. If that's all for today, we'll see you guys next Friday. Stay safe. Thank you. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
You, Prof.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.